wanted to introduce myself. My name is David Brown. I'm the office manager in the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'll let my programming coordinator introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiana Ingram. I use she, they pronouns. I'm the programming coordinator for the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs. Nice to have you all here.
All right. And Thea, if you want to introduce yourself, and then Kim, if you want to introduce yourself after that.
Sure. Hi, I'm Thea Brown. I'm the owner of World of Mirth here in Richmond and Carytown, and I use she, her pronouns.
Sorry, I'm not very technologically aware. My name is Kim. I use she, they pronouns, and I own Black Rabbit Tattoo, also near Carytown. It's on Belmont Avenue. That's it.
All right, well, how we're going to do it is just kind of like a back and forth between Tiana and I asking questions. And the first question we have is, and you can choose who answers first. How long have you lived in Richmond, and what brought you here?
Sure, I'll go. I moved to Richmond in 1999 to attend VCU. I actually had some experience here in the city. Prior to that, my father was a painting and printmaking grad student at VCU when I was about 7 or 8. So I used to come and hang out at the school in the Pollock building in the summers when I would come to visit him. And I just kind of fell in love with the city. It was a lot different than it is now. Downtown, especially near VCU, was a lot of like old Victorian buildings and businesses that had been around, like family businesses for 30 or 40 years. So it was just like a really fun kind of creative, really hot in the summer place to come and try to expand my education and figure out what I was going to do with my life.
So I moved to Richmond, I think it was like 2003 to go to VCU. I wanted an art career, but I didn't really know how to make that a thing. So I went to VCU for sociology, and then I changed to elementary education. And I started getting pretty heavily tattooed. So the elementary education back then, they were like, you can't be a teacher with all those tattoos. And so I was like, well, then I'll be a tattooer. So I stayed in Richmond, and I've been here ever since. I grew up in Chesterfield, so it wasn't like a far move for me or anything, but yeah, Richmond is just seemed like the right place to be for someone who was a little bit alternative. In Chesterfield, it wasn't really very open, kind of environment. So Richmond made sense for me to be here.
So I have the next question, and this one is for you, Thea. Can you give us a history of the World of Mirth? Like, when did you open the store? When did you get hired? And like, what made you even want to, take that career path with the store?
Sure. So World of Mirth opened in 1999. It was on Gray Street. I believe the 900 block of Gray Street. It was above an old punk rock store called Exile that had been around for a really long time, in an old Victorian house that was next to Grace Place, which was an old vegetarian restaurant that was also in an old Victorian house. And it was kind of just a little fun, funky, antiques, tchotchke, little Bugs and Amber kind of deal store. And it was there for a couple of years, and then it moved here to Carytown, a block away from where we are now, and continued to be kind of a little quirky gift store. We moved to the location that we're in now in 1999 to be a toy store for kids of all ages. So we carry from infant to grown up. There weren't any other toy stores in the area where you could play. You would go, and there were a couple other toy stores, and they were either very sterile with the shelves where everything's just stacked up, or they had glass shelves and you were supposed to keep your kids in the stroller. You weren't really supposed to touch anything. And we wanted it to be a place where everybody could feel welcome and everybody could come in and touch things and play. And if they have questions about things, our staff is very knowledgeable. We'll take things out of the box for you. I started working here in 2004. After I graduated VCU, I took a year off before grad school. That was 1995. Have yet to make it back to grad school. And I started working a retail job when I was in school. I worked all 4 years. I worked study job at the Ronald McDonald House, and always had 2 or 3 other part-time jobs to put myself through school. So retail just kind of seemed like an easy cross to do for that 1 year, to try to save up money and take a year off to figure out kind of what I wanted to study a little bit more. My degree at VCU was in non-traditional studies with a focus in photography and sociology with a dance minor. So of course I own a toy store. Once I started working here, I came over as a store manager. I had been a district manager at a clothing store, really good at retail, and moved up to DC for 2 years, and then kind of came back to be in charge of the 4 stores that were down here. I had my son in 2003 and didn't really want to work, 60 to 72 hours a week when I had a child. I wanted to have 2 days off a week. Whenever I did have time off, I would always come into World of Mirth to just kind of escape and just, spend some time in a really fun place, and had met Catherine Harvey back in 93 when she opened the original World of Mirth. So I actually never even applied to work here. I got a phone call saying that they had a position open and wanted to know if I would come in and interview for it. So it all just kind of fell into place from there. I came from the managerial, side of it, so I knew how to run the store. And Catherine, before she died, had been planning on not even being in the store anymore. She was going to run everything from an office at home. So when she passed away, it was just really important to kind of keep her first baby continuing, to keep her story and her family story and the legacy of World of Mirth here for other people. So I just had a really quick jump into the water to figure out the business side of it. And luckily haven't made too many mistakes. But I never planned on running a toy store. I never planned on owning a toy store. But that's where I ended up, and I'm happy that I did. And I really enjoy it, and I love being a part of the Richmond community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This next question is for Kim. How long have you been tattooing, and at what point did you decide to open a shop of your own, and why did you choose Carytown?
So I have been tattooing now for 12 years. Yeah, it's been like 12 and a half years. I wanted to open my own shop because I had worked at the shop that I learned how to tattoo at for, I want to say like 8 years-ish. And I just felt like Richmond really kind of needed like a female presence in tattooing. We didn't have then a lot of women tattooing in the city. I mean, there was always some bigger names. And I was coming from, I was working in a strip mall, doing like, script names on people's necks and stuff. And so I was like, I really want to put something in the city that is going to be a little bit of a different space, because as a woman, I had a really rough time with my apprenticeship. I was taught by men. I was, the only woman at the shop. And a lot of women that back then, 12 years ago, were having the same experience of just like being completely, used as like a tool in a tattoo shop to garner business, because people do want to get tattooed by women. They feel more comfortable around women. Unfortunately, there are a lot of male tattooers that take advantage of the fact that they have access to people's bodies, and they take advantage of that. And we, as a part of the tattoo industry, but also someone that had been getting tattooed, I was like, there's got to be a space in the city, because tattoo culture is so huge in Richmond. I mean, everybody's tattooed in the city. There's an art school here, I had gone to VCU and I dropped out to become a tattooer. So I thought, well, I've been tattooing here for 8 years, and I think it's just time to break away. So I had no business experience. I had no I had no idea how to run a business. I was just like, I know I can tattoo, and I know that other people would want to work in this space. So I opened Black Rabbit. I think it was 2012 in, God, was it 2012? Yeah, I think it was. And I was going, honestly, I didn't choose the area. I was going to the hair salon next door, and I saw, it used to be the old Tom French Flowers building right next to the Belmont Butcher. And it always had like all these crazy lights outside and this giant peacock. And like, and I had seen it, you know, being in Richmond for a while, and it was gone. And there was just a sign that said for rent. And I was like, all right, well, you know, maybe this is my time. I hadn't decided yet to open the shop, but it just struck me. So I called, and they said it was vacant and that, you know, we could renovate. And I still find sparkles in corners of that space, because it was just like the most beautiful, like flower shop, so many sparkles. But the neighborhood has been incredible because it's right there near Carytown, but it's in the city. The museum district is just beautiful. The community is amazing. Everybody's been really great. We don't get like, I mean, I think people know that it's a shop full of like progressive women. So we're not going to be very like open to people coming in and getting rude or having a problem. But yeah, I just thought Richmond needed a inclusive space. And we have people all the time that tell us like, you know, I was nervous to go into another tattoo shop because I thought people would tell me my idea was stupid, or they would think, you know, we have so many trans clients that felt so uncomfortable going into a shop full of men, you know, a shop full of men that unfortunately tattooing gives men this like idea that they're able to just treat people like a commodity, and we just don't do that at Black Rabbit. So I'm really grateful for the neighborhood too. Richmond has just been really great, really a good place to put it for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, this is for you again, Thea. So World of Mirth is not your typical toy store in that you tend to carry things that you wouldn't find at like a Toys R Us or like, you know, bigger mainstream stores. So do you feel like, and I'm gonna say, do you feel like, how do you feel like your store would like compare or compete with one of those stores? Or do you just try to, you know, focus on your individual store and not even worry about what other people are doing?
Right. Well, the first way that we compete with Toys R Us is they went out of business. There's that. You know, I think one of the amazing things about owning a small business is that you are able to quickly kind of pivot and change the direction that you're going, or something, you know, some kind of procedure that you have in place to help prolong your business. You know, the downside to being a small business is that you don't have the coffers of money, you know, or people that come in to invest that a larger corporation would. You know, there are times where I'm human, so I do kind of go, oh gosh, well, they're doing this, or this is, you know, they get all of this. Or people, you know, their first thought is, oh, I'm going to buy this online, I'm going to do that. But people come to us because we are how we are, that we have things that you aren't going to necessarily find anyplace else. And if you do, we are well educated in those and can tell you who they're going to be for. You get personalized service with us, where if you come in and say, I have, you know, I don't know, a 15-year-old who's not neurologically typical, who, you know, is really fascinated by lights and movement, but doesn't want to interact with those things, we can point you in that direction. We can also just have weird chuckling chickens and fart machines and all kinds of, you know, fun little things to make everybody kind of awaken the child inside. So, you know, there is always that point. You want to make sure that what you're doing, there's a need for your business, that you're filling a kind of space, that you believe in what you're doing. So it's very easy for people to see through you if you are putting up a front, but not necessarily have the strong belief system in what you do. You know, so everything's a competition a little bit, because you are trying to sell things. But at the same time, being true to yourself and true to the vision of what you've created, what your passion is, I think is going to steer you the right way in the long run.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kim, your front desk staff and the tattoo artists are all women at Black Rabbit. was that part of your original business plan when opening the shop? And to follow up with that, walking into Black Rabbit, everyone is very approachable, and it felt more like walking into like an anime museum because it's like so bright and the imagery is just like all over the place, floor to ceiling. How much of that was intentional when it came to making your shop look and feel different than that of a typical tattoo shop, especially in Richmond?
It was all very intentional. I've built my career on being an anime tattooer. When I first started tattooing, nobody was doing that kind of imagery because it wasn't really known how to tattoo it. Was it going to last? And, you know, back then it was anime was much less accessible. So I was kind of like a fringe weirdo, like that liked anime and also was a tattooer. And at the time, tattooers were like really cool people. And I was just like, not cool, never have been. But I just really wanted to I wanted to make anime, but I didn't want to be an animator. I didn't want to be a manga artist. I wanted to be an anime tattooer. And at the time, there was nobody doing it. So my mentor was like, you can't do that. And I was like, I'm going to do it anyway. And so I opened Black Rabbit, and I was talking to a couple of tattooers that were friends of mine at the time. And they were like, you know, I think if you know a few other women, it would be really smart to open an all girl shop. And I was like, you know, I agree. I think that would be a really cool thing, but I wonder if it will be well received. And at the time, you know, when we opened the shop, a lot of women get tattooed, and there were a lot of women tattooers, but it still wasn't like as huge as it is now of, you know, women being seeked out for that. So I got a couple of girls, you know, in on it with me, and we opened the shop. And I mean, within a year, I mean, we have people driving from out of state. And, you know, Richmond is not, you know, Richmond's a great city for those of us who live here, but it's not exactly a tourist attraction or somewhere that people typically are like, oh, I want to go to Richmond. And so we kind of built something that brings people to Richmond because a tattoo is permanent. People feel like it's a really big deal. They make a trip out of it. You know, we have clients from New York, from, you know, I have people fly for California to get tattooed. And it's like, it feels good for the city. It makes me feel proud because we built something here that, you know, not only is it for people that want to get tattooed, but people come to the shop just to be like, wow, I really like anime, and it makes me feel good that someone that I like find to be talented or find to be cool, which, you know, like we're all a bunch of nerds, but people for some reason think that tattooers are like really cool people. And like, we're just a bunch of artists that want to do art and like want to do art for a living. So, you know, I'm humbled by the fact that people come from out of town, but it makes me feel proud of Richmond because, you know, I'm like, hey, you got to check out Carytown after you get tattooed, or like go to this restaurant that I love, or, you know, VCU has a lot of beautiful grounds that you can check out. And I'm like, wow, I'm kind of doing something for the city by bringing people in. And I mean, I have a couple of clients that were like, I think I'm going to move to Richmond because I visited, and it's like, you know, so much cheaper to live there than my city, but I like the community here. I like the art community, the college community. But being an all-female shop is the biggest draw for us. We have people of all walks of life that come to the shop that are like, you know, I'm a soccer mom, and I just know that if I go into a shop with all these big bearded guys, that they're just going to treat me like crap and overcharge me. And it's true, like they probably will. And like they come to us and they feel comfortable, you know, even though we've got like naked women on the wall and like, you know, we're listening to like rowdy music, they feel comfortable because they know like, we're not here to judge you. We're here for you to feel comfortable. And we're very lucky to have the community. Richmond community has been really great to us.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so this next question is for both of you all. So both of your shops have done donation drives in the past. What are some of the charities that you all have supported, and why did you choose them?
Sure. Well, we, you know, being a toy store, I think some of the most important memories that children have when they're growing up is playing. So we tend to donate to different charities or local nonprofits that specifically work with kids. sometimes there's a little bit of a blurry line with that because of the other things that fall into kind of our community archetype. We always heavily donate to PTAs, local schools, because as we all know, RPS funding is not great. And there's a lot of schools that don't have any extras. There's some schools that have really strong and wonderful PTAs and very active PTAs, and other schools that, you know, might have one person on a PTA or have had an active PTA in, you know, 10 or 20 years. So we always like to heavily donate to anything that has to do with schools. Anything that is a World of Mirth merchandise also gets donated to the Brian and Catherine Harvey Family Memorial Endowment through the Community Foundation. And that helps with arts and music funding in the city. I know they donated a grand piano to one of the schools here at RPS. They helped to build the musical garden at the Children's Museum. We also donate to anything like Side by Side. We donate to them pretty heavily. We also, gosh, there's so many. I'm trying to think of like everybody. We've done Mad RVA. We've done like the Black and Brown Ballerinas. You know, a lot of different local groups that are helping children who might be marginalized in some kind of way, still be kids and still be able to have that kind of, you know, structure and people rooting for them. You know, SCAN is something that I always heavily donate to, because I feel like, you know, Stop Child Abuse Now is a really great organization. And then we've also, of course, the Ronald McDonald House, because I worked there for so long. No, I didn't meet Ronald McDonald, but I did go through lots of money that was donated in machines and fountains and all that crazy stuff. You know, honestly, before I worked there, I had no idea what they did. I had no idea that they provided housing for families from out of town, out of state, even out of the country, who have children in local hospitals. So I got to meet some really amazing families and kids. And, you know, there were some great victories and some really sad times with that as well. But, you know, I think being in our community, you can't just take from people. You have to show them that you value them and you value being a part of their community and being accepted. So I think giving back is just the right thing to do, but also the way to show that you are here for them. Sorry, that was a bit of a roundabout answer. There's so many people we donate to. I was trying not to miss anybody, which I'm sure we did. But so yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
So fine. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We've donated to a couple of the similar charities. You know, I have kids. I have like the softest spot for children. So in the Christmas season, we do Toys for Tats, which is people have to bring unused brand new toys. They can trade it in. I think the toy has to be a value of over $20. So some people would bring like baskets of toys. And you can either trade it in for a tattoo that day, which, you know, you could pick off of a sheet of some small tattoos, or they would get a gift certificate to Black Rabbit. And I think we got 3,000 toys that day. And it was like, at that point, we had to like split it up between a couple of different charities, because one was like, we don't want 3,000 toys. So we did, I'm pretty sure we donated a bunch of toys to Side by Side. And then we do a big Planned Parenthood event, and during COVID, we can't do events because it's just too many people show up, but we did a huge fundraiser for Planned Parenthood twice. People would just come in and get just the tiniest little line drawings. And like, it's so amazing to see what the tattoo community does, because these people, you know, the donation was $20. Some people would drop $100. Some people would drop. I had people that saw the line and didn't want to wait, and they were like, you know what, let me just donate. And we were able to give them a really huge donation. So Richmond loves to support small business, and they really love to get involved when small business is supporting the community. And I think it's kind of a part of our duty to do that, because we're not a corporation. We're not just sitting here, you know, on millions of dollars. We're expecting the community to help us survive. So I think it's really important for us to give back to the community. And once COVID is over, we're hoping to do a bunch more events, but sadly, people lining up outside for stuff is not a good look right now. So
thank you so much.
Okay, this is another question that's for both of you. And I guess we'll just start with Thea and then go to Kim. What would you like your legacy to be? And what does the future look like for your particular business industry?
Well, as far as what the future looks like for my business industry, if you listen to a lot of people, retail's dead. We're all, we shouldn't even have a store. We shouldn't be here. Everybody's just going to order everything online and have it, sent to their house. However, we have a website. People go to it, they check it out, and then they come in to buy things. Right now with COVID, we are completely limited on who we let into the store. We let 10 people in at a time. Everybody from age 3 and up has to wear a mask. They have to use sanitizer when they come in. We do curbside pickup, we do shipping, we do delivery. But even with those options that we've given and started to provide, people still want to come into the store. They want a personal touch. They want to talk to people. They want to physically interact with us in the store. So as much as I hear all the doom and gloom, I think we're going to be around for quite a while, I hope. Our plan last year was to expand. That did get kind of stopped just because there was such uncertainty with what was going to happen. We didn't know, if the United States was going to be shut down for quite a while. Honestly, we didn't know if any of us were going to get sick, so obviously legacy, I want the business to go on even without me. I don't necessarily want to be an 80-year-old still working in here. My son loves automotive engineering a little bit too much to kind of take over the family business right now. But I think the legacy I would love to have would be one where people came in and they felt good. That we were a place where people came in to be happy and to be able to know that they wouldn't be judged, that they'd be welcome, and that we could help kind of create those memories for everyone, for little ones that come in who just, their mouth opens when they come in the store and their eyes are huge and it's just the most amazing place to them, to somebody that might be coming in to buy, a gift for their grandma, or they're just having a terrible day and they want to come into someplace really happy, that they know, we're going to be nice to them, but B, they'll just kind of be able to feel good here.
In terms of a legacy, I hope I've done my part to change tattooing a little bit. Even when I began my apprenticeship, it was kind of like a Wild West, you'd go in and hope that, especially as a woman, that nobody treated you with disrespect or touched you inappropriately or was rude to you. And now I think people are starting to refuse that behavior in the tattoo industry. There's a huge calling out of, men that take advantage of that space. And I hope that I've helped to make people feel like they don't have to worry about that when they come into Black Rabbit. And I hope that that's the style of tattooing that I started doing. I hope it continues and grows. And then I think for the future of Black Rabbit, I hope my daughters want to be tattooers, at least one of them. That would be great. I think one of them maybe will continue the family business. But I hope it always, I'm not anti-men. I think if the right man applied to work at Black Rabbit, we would welcome him. But as for now, and probably the future, I hope that it stays based on women and a place for marginalized people to feel comfortable getting their bodies altered. Because, when you open yourself up to being, touched and essentially altered, you're going in to do something permanent. You want to trust the people that are in that space. It's just like a doctor. It's like somebody giving you medicine. It's somebody giving you, a massage. A physical touch is like so intimate, and having a space with people who probably have all been, you know, mistreated in that way, is really helpful for people to feel like they can speak us out. And I hope it continues to be that way in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have our last question. Thea, we can start with you. So if you could pass along one piece of advice to someone wanting to start a successful small business, what would it be?
I think the biggest piece of advice I can give someone is to make sure that they have a passion for what they're going into. Um, I don't clock out at 5 o'clock. I'm answering emails and messages from customers at, midnight. I try to cut my phone off at 9. It doesn't necessarily work out that way. Anything goes wrong, you have to be the one who rallies to kind of fix it. You also have to find kind of like-minded people to kind of come in and work with you. And it's not a cakewalk. It's not easy. You have to be very strong and courageous and willing to accept failure, which, a lot of people have a hard time kind of accepting criticism, constructive or not. But you have to be resilient. You have to have that passion, because it would be really easy. I think we've all had those jobs where you wake up and you're like, oh God, no, not today. And I can honestly say that I don't have those days. Some days are rough, obviously, but when you have that passion, you'll do the extra things you need to do to research how to do something, or to, find another vendor that's going to help you with what you need. You'll also have, I go to toy shows, and when I first started going, I was the only one who had colored hair. I was the only one who had tattoos. And a lot of times I was the only younger woman who was there. A lot of small independent toy stores were kind of started by people after their kids had grown up and left home, or, had retired and thought opening a toy store would be fun. So I didn't necessarily have that kind of group of peers to settle in with. So it was a little lonely in the beginning. I'd also take, some staff with me to shows. And if I had a male employee with me, there would be people who would speak only to him, which was always funny, because I'm like, I'm the one who has the money and who decides what we take. So yeah, enjoy talking to him. Have a good time. So it's just, I think it comes down to passion. It comes down to, finding something that you love and that you want to do. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be your life's dream, because honestly, if my life dream had come true, I'd be a ballet dancer and a photographer for National Geographic. But just that drive to be able to, wake up every day and put that other foot in front of the other, and inspire other people to kind of rally behind you and create something special.
Awesome. Thank you.
I echo that. That's like some very real advice. Honestly, like, when you own a business, you don't stop working. When I leave the shop, I go home and I'm drawing for my appointments the next day. I'm not just the business owner, I also tattoo. So it's like, I'm nonstop going, okay, like, how do we make sure the rent's paid? How, especially with COVID and all that stuff. I mean, that's scary. And I mean, Thea knows that too, with merchandise and all the things that you have to hold on to. And you're like, how do we make this money? But honestly, some practical advice would be, don't let others influence your choices if they are not like specifically qualified to. So when your friends and family say, are you sure you want to do that? That's going to be really difficult. That's going to be really hard. Yes, it is going to be hard, but it's worth it. And like, people will discourage you because it's difficult. They'll discourage you because they don't want to see you fail. And sometimes taking that step and going, you know what, if I fail, I'll live, I'll survive, I will be okay, I will do something else if this doesn't work. But it's believing in that choice that you're making. Don't half step in, take that full step in. And like, I mean, something I genuinely believe is that if you don't have the money to open a business, that does not mean that you shouldn't open a business. That means that you just have to find those funds. You have to find a way to, you know, have people backing you or have people helping you. That's that first step. And once you leave that first step, you're secure. But just don't let those things discourage you, because once you get past it, you're going to look back and say, thank God I made this choice for my future, because now you're your own boss. You know, I don't have anybody calling me going, where are you? What have you, you know, oh, you're not on your shift, or, oh, like you need to wear this thing to work today. It's like, I make my choices for my career, and it's something that you will thank yourself for in the future. You know, you can go through college and get a degree and not get a job in that degree, but you can open a business no matter what you do. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to go into debt. You can open a business about anything you want. You like seashells? Open a business. Like, you can make a business out of anything. Seriously, it's like, there are other people that love what you love, and they will come to you. If you put your passion and drive into what you love, you can make it work. You just can.
Let's get in their questions together. I can go ahead and read the first one. So Dr. Kadiba wanted to know, she says, you both have mentioned instances of sexism in your career. Like, for example, Thea, you saying folks speaking to your male counterpart but not speaking to you. She wanted to know, how have you dealt with those circumstances and what motivates you to keep going despite the adversity?
I think for me, just being strong in my self-belief. You know, you can talk to my male counterpart all day long. He can't make any decisions. It's me. I hired him. It also kind of gives me a little bit of insight about maybe the company that I'm ordering from, you know, because they're going to deal with me later on. But if you can't see who I am, you can't read my name tag where it says owner underneath. Or even if I'm not an owner, you know, it's how you treat other people. It's like going, you know, out to a restaurant and treating the wait staff horribly. You know, be kind to everybody. I want to do business with people who are kind and who are empathetic. And, you know, I know what I know, and I know what I want for my business. And if I have somebody who's treating me disrespectfully or just not even acknowledge me at all, I don't have to buy from them. I don't have to spend my money with them. I have had, you know, let me speak to your husband before, which I think is pretty interesting, because he does not work here. And he would also probably look at me. You know, so I think just that assumption that, you know, being a woman, that you can't have an opinion, or you can't be in charge, or you can't be valid in what you're doing. You know, rarely do I get mad at it, because I just find it so silly that I kind of, you know, laugh it off, because I'm like, oh, you're not so smart. So I don't have to work with them. And there's other times where I just straight up call it out. So I'm like, oh, why did you say that? Why do you think that? Because I think sometimes it's so ingrained in people's psyche and in how people view others, or even sometimes themselves, that they don't necessarily even realize what they're saying or why they have that belief. So sometimes just you know, asking why can get a huge answer for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was revenge. It was revenge, fully motivated by revenge. My boss, my mentor, when I begged him for an apprenticeship, he said, women can't tattoo like men. And so, I mean, at the time I was 20 years old, and I was like, I know that's not right, but tattooing doesn't know that's not right. So, okay. I was motivated. And my apprenticeship was really, really emotionally taxing, because I was being taught by men who were given this position of power in the community, in tattoo community, which was, you know, when you're an apprentice, regardless of your gender, you were treated like less than. And then if you're on top of that, if you're a woman, and I assume also it must be even harder for marginalized women and for women of color. But for me personally, it became, well, you're this object that we keep in the shop because we want to be able to have this attraction for men to come in and get tattooed by you. And they would harass me all day long. And by the end of my employment there, I was just like, I'm gonna show you guys how you've treated me and how it wasn't worth it for you guys, because you're gonna lose me. I make all the money for y'all. Now I'm gonna make it for myself. And it motivated me to push myself into a direction that was like, I'm gonna work hard for me. I'm not gonna work hard for my abusers. That's not what I'm gonna do, because it felt wrong. It felt wrong to give people who had such a skewed way of thinking any of my success. I didn't want to give that to anybody but to myself and then my peers that I loved. So I took it and I went and I opened up a business full of women, and I don't have to go to work and worry if someone's gonna put their hand up my skirt, or I don't have to worry if someone's gonna tell me you look tired today, like because I didn't wear makeup, or it's just you create the space. And like, I know it's much harder. I know it's not easy for everyone. And I say that with privilege because I have a lot of privilege in my, in the fact that I can just go and open a business. But, I had my own roadblocks. Other people have theirs. But if you can get past that, it for me felt like the greatest relief, and success was a relief for me. I was like, I don't have to be treated like this anymore. And now I've given other women the ability to never have to look up to a man in that industry again, because they have me instead to look at, and I'm not going to abuse them. I'm not going to treat them like they're less than. So, I'm very motivated to continue changing tattooing. That's something that motivates me a lot, is like putting more people of color in positions of power in tattooing. We don't have enough of that at all. More women of color, especially in Richmond. That's a huge goal for me, is like, okay, now that we've helped women and people that feel uncomfortable, like how can we now help people become tattooers? Like, okay, you want to be your own boss, be a tattooer, essentially. And so it motivates me a lot.
Thank you. So we had another question. This one comes from Jen. Thea, we'll have you start first. So what advice would you give to someone trying to find financial backers or support for a business?
Sure. So in doing research to purchase World of Mirth, one of the first things that they tell you is ask your family members. I didn't come from a family that could help out with that. There was no extra money. I think the first year I was at VCU, my mom made $2,000 that year. So that wasn't an option for me. I also didn't work at a job where I could save thousands of dollars to also put a down payment. There are grants and small business loans that you can apply for. You just have to look for them. The SBA, the Small Business Association, can be a huge help for that. I will say that most SBA loans through them come at a very high interest rate, because even though they want to help you open a business, they kind of not really sure you're going to be able to do it. So they're trying to kind of cover their own tails on that one. So a lot of people do kind of refinance after a couple of years. But if you're opening, say in a certain part of town, or if you are a minority or a woman-owned business, there are different grants that you can, and seed money that you can apply for. There's also angel investors. Some people do GoFundMes. There's lots of different creative ways. I know that, there's was it Rumors Marche's business here in town, that they didn't take any loans or anything when they started their business. They just hustled and saved up money for years, and then created kind of a business platform where they didn't have to have large sums of money to buy their merchandise. They were getting it from the people who were also shopping there. So you just have to kind of be creative. And, when Catherine first passed away and I was offered the ability to buy the shop, it was about $10,000 back then that I needed to get. And that was like, that could have been $1 million to me. I didn't have that. But, if you are driven and you ask the right people questions, or even anybody, sometimes it's just a random person who happens to know this one little piece of information that you need that can open up a world of help for you. And don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to talk up your business and everything that you've done and that you're gonna do. Make sure that it's grounded in reality. Have like a business plan. Have some kind of numbers. Know the area of which you want to try to go into. Like if I'm going into this city, what percent of the population might possibly want to come to whatever my business is, restaurant, stores. So have some kind of grounding in that. And just let people know how amazing you are and how wonderful your business is going to be and how it's going to help people and fill in a void somewhere. And you never know who that one person is that can just unlock that door.
It's very true. All of that is like excellent advice. I would say for me, a couple of things that I think are very helpful are start small. Don't go for the biggest, grandest idea first. So depending on what kind of business you're opening, for me, it was, I built a clientele at a different shop for many years before I opened a business. So I knew I had enough clients to foot the bills for my new shop. I knew I was busy enough to handle a storefront of my own. If you are selling wares or goods, or you're physically selling items, start small. Do a small space. Don't rent a giant space. Don't put all your eggs into one basket right away. Prove your concept first. And that way you're not spending a whole lot of money to make revenue. So if use the internet, use free resources on the internet, sell things first to see what that kind of response is. And then if you're just getting this massive response, then yeah, save up all that money, get all those sales, all that money first. And I think honestly, ask other business owners in your community that even remotely relate to your business. Chances are they'd love to dip their hand in another thing. I know personally, if there was another business opening in the city, especially, non-cis white man was opening up a business, I would love to help open a business with someone who I knew was going to enrich the community. It's business owners, especially small business owners, tend to really look out for each other. And like they know so many resources, especially for money. I mean, banks are probably the last place you want to go, but if you're raising money, ask your community. Go for, like Thea said, GoFundMe's are amazing, especially if you're putting something into Richmond that we don't already have, even if it's just the fact that you're not a typical business owner. Like, I think I got such a great response because I was a woman and I couldn't name off any other shops owned by women at the time that I knew of. And, money will come if you can prove your concept. So start small. If you want food, you want to do a restaurant, start a food truck. Don't open the restaurant first. Start small and then grow it from there. And you'll get that money will come to you because you'll prove it yourself.
Thank you. Okay, so next question for you all. Although you are your own bosses, women still earn about 78 cents to every dollar that men earn. Why do you think it is taking so long to close the pay gap? And how do you think women should go about changing this?
I will say for retail, I think one of the biggest reasons that there's still such a wage disparity is that retail is not seen as a real job because it tends to be the employees tend to be women and people of color. So they're not seen as quite as important. when you have a larger corporation, or even, you know, sometimes a small business, and you know that you are a man and or a male and a woman, and you are making, you know, less money than your coworker for absolutely no reason, it's incredibly frustrating. And that's, again, one of those biases that I think are just accepted, and you have to kind of confront it and say why. You know, here I start everybody at the same. They all get raises on their merit, and I I worked in that job where I wasn't making as much as somebody who was working my job and doing way less work than I was, and it's incredibly frustrating. And God, I just get so mad about that. I'm sorry. Like, I'm having a hard time
Yeah,
coming up with words
insane.
that are polite.
Yep.
You know, I think it's just because I am my own business owner now, and I am my own boss, I can put forth how I want people to be treated and how I want people to be paid. And hopefully by leading by example, other places will do that as well. You know, you get back what you put out. And I just firmly believe that as we get more, you know, people of color, and we get more women as business owners, that that'll be something that changes.
I think that women need to become a little more aggressive in the workplace. It makes men uncomfortable, and that's what is necessary, is to make men uncomfortable. They don't like it, but you have to do it, especially like if you get labeled as a bossy woman, or a cranky woman, or one of those women that, you know, shows up for her job and they're like, oh, she's unfriendly. Like, you know why? Because she's aggressive in the sense of she's not taking your shit. And so like you put yourself in that position, and it's hard because, you know, the second I started standing up to the people that I worked with was the second they all pushed back, you know. Don't you realize that like you're here because we let you be here? You're here because, you know, of us. If you don't want to be with us, then you're gonna fail. It's pushing that. Once they realize that you're not going to stop, they're going to fire you, in which case then you've got a whole nother situation on your hands where you can be like, for real, you fired me because I'm just doing my job and I'm a little bit more outspoken. But the more men you make uncomfortable, talk about wage openly. And if that's something that they don't like, there's a reason they don't like it. It's because they know that they're paying you less than they're paying the other employees that are male. And so, you know, especially if you work for a corporation, take them and drag them all the way down the street, because they have the legal team to deal with it, you know. And I mean, I wish more like Target employees, Whole Foods employees, Walmart employees would just drag those companies, because they're billion-dollar companies. And so I totally get that it's hard as a woman to put yourself in that situation, but it is so necessary to make yourself difficult. Like, don't take, you know, your male counterpart is making more money than you, speak about it. Because if there's one thing the media loves, it's to drag a corporation.
Thank you. Okay, so next question. Which experiences do you think, which experience do you think was the most pivotal in deciding to stand against the misogyny you all faced rather than internalizing it? Good question.
The first thing that comes to mind for me was the clothing store that I worked at for 9 years, that I started at in Richmond, and then they moved me to DC. There were 2 owners, both male, and one was a little standoffish, but, you know, a good guy. The other guy was, let's just say slimy. We'll say slimy. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting asked out, you know, you're doing a great job. We're so excited to have you up here. We want to take you out. Both of the owners want to take me out to dinner. Well, one owner showed up, and you can only imagine which one it was. And, you know, kept trying to touch me, kept trying to would just make little, rude comments that I was just kind of like, what are you doing, dude? And then try to kiss me on the neck when I was leaving. And at that point, I just went, no, this is not going to happen. Not going to happen. And I know that he had dated other employees. These are people, again, it's retail. So it's younger women. It's people that don't have a voice who can get easily fired. And I just, at that point was like, no, this is not how I'm going to be treated. And I'm not going to let anybody else be treated this way either. And I just, kind of became an asshole. I, would say no, and I would call out, and I would verify with the other boss if something was going on. And I would be a place where other employees could come to me and talk if they needed to. And it showed me exactly how I did not want to be treated and how I did not want to treat other people. And I think when you are younger and maybe not so self-assured, you can sometimes have or lack the skills to stand up for yourself. And if you've been somebody with past trauma, you can also freeze. It just, your body tells you, I don't know how to handle this. I'm gonna, you get the flight or fright kind of deal. And again, I think it kind of comes down to treating people how I want to be treated, and knowing that I wasn't going to let somebody take advantage of me, and therefore I wasn't going to let anybody else take advantage of myself or my staff. And I wasn't going to do that to other people. So there's also little stories I could just go on and on. Elwood Thompson's. I used to work at a little yogurt shop in Carytown that was terrible. My very first job was working at Spencer's in a mall in Virginia Beach, and it was a ton of no offense to anybody, but it was a ton of really young military guys who are being sent away from home and trained to kill, and are have hormones racing through their bodies. So I think that was just the one point where I was like, nah, this is not okay and not going to happen.
Good for you. I can't imagine. I couldn't share all of the instances. The last straw for me, one of my coworkers would photograph young women while they were getting tattooed, if they were wearing skirts or clothing that was revealing. He would take pictures of them, and he would show all of us in the shop, like, oh, look at the underwear she was wearing. And at that moment, I think I realized I don't want to be lumped in with this, and I don't want to even have this knowledge, because it was so hard for me, because I knew if I told, they would end my career. I knew that I would be like absolutely just excommunicated from tattooing if I told about all of the abuse and all of the horrible things that they not only did to me, but clients. I think for me, that was the last time I remember I looked and I was like, man, she didn't know you took that picture. What do you, how do you think that would make her feel? And he was just like, she'll never know. And I'm like, do you want your clients to know that you do this? Or is it something that you think you should be kept secret? And he was like, well, of course I wouldn't want them to know. I was like, so why are you doing it? And he was just like, well, she's some girl getting a tattoo. And I was like, yo, you guys just don't care about people. Women. Truly, we were a commodity at that point. And so I was just like, I want to open up a place where this never happens ever again. Ever again. It was horrible. I hold on to a lot of things from that shop, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't have the strength to call them out, because then it's a war. But so many men in tattooing, please. I don't know if any of you have any experience in tattoo shops, but please do not allow men that make you uncomfortable anywhere near your body, because there are a lot of pigs out there.
Thank you. We do have a question for you, Kim. So how do the experiences from your apprenticeship impact the way that you interact with apprentices in your shop?
It made me soft because I just love them and I want them to have a good experience because mine was so horrible. There is a percentage of me that's really grateful for my apprenticeship because it did give me my career. Like it allowed me to get licensed to do tattoos here, and for that I'm very grateful. But I would never treat them in a way that's degrading. And unfortunately, part of a lot of apprenticeships, it's like kind of fraternity like. It's very much like a degrading thing. Like how badly can we treat you to show how loyal you will be to us? And I mean, I remember one day, one of my coworkers brought in a pair of like little kids underwear, and he was like, "You're gonna wear these today." And I was like, "No, I don't." And he was just like, you're going to wear them or you're going to go home and you're not going to come back. And I did it because I was young and impressionable. And I just desperately wanted to be a tattooer. And it's disgusting. And that's the way that you can be treated in this kind of environment. Now, granted, that was 12 years ago. And thankfully, these things aren't as common nowadays, especially with women. But like, when I look at my apprentices, I'm like, these are people that I love and care about. They're essentially members of my family. So, I just want them to be tattooers. I want them to feel good about their craft. And like, this job is I feel so lucky to be a part of this job, this community and like this career. So I think about horrible, horrible things for my apprenticeship. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad they don't have to go through this. And I would never put them through it.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have another question. Have you ever had trouble with burnout from taking on too much to prove yourself? How do you avoid that or overcome that? And that was for both of y'all, so whoever can go first.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced burnout. I'm one of those people that I don't want to prove myself to other people. I want to prove myself to me. I want to do the best that I can. And I, for a very long time did everything that I could, to the point where it would alienate some coworkers because I was just doing everything. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. And I was driving myself into the ground, basically. So a way to kind of avoid that is take time off, which, is counterintuitive if you are somebody who is working hourly or working paycheck to paycheck, but you have to have time to recharge yourself. You have to have time to, if you want to just sit and stare at a wall, sit and stare at a wall, or have, be able to explore whatever kind of hobbies or creative outlet that you have. And, I'm 48 and it's taking me 46 years to kind of follow that advice. I think COVID really made that stand out to me. Like, I can't just keep going. I can't not take care of myself because other people rely on me. My family relies on me. I rely on me. But at the same time, I know that I trust my staff. And if I have to step away for a little while, they can run it. They can, make it go for at least a week, probably longer, so that can afford me time to step away and make sure that my staff can do that as well. My full-time staff accrue vacation hours, and sometimes I have to remind them, hey guys, you need to take that time. Let's get you out of here. When are you going to take that vacation? Because it is really important to just kind of be able to just kind of be a person and not work to live. And again, I've been in that position where I was waking up, running to one job, leaving that job to run to another one. But even if it's just one day a week, be able to take that time to kind of focus on nothing that has to do with your job, so that you can kind of overcome that. And then if you can't do that, another way I think too that I've been able to kind of overcome it is just find a new way to look at it. I tend to get bored quickly, especially if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. I hate monotony. So I'll just look at it from a different way, or step into something else, approach something in a different way to kind of help with that.
Oh, I have a problem with creative burnout because my job requires me to make art. And sometimes you don't want to make art. Sometimes you feel like I couldn't draw a stick figure if I was in a bad mood. So burnout is real for sure, especially owning a business. And, as Thea knows, being a mom, having children, COVID, your kids are in school, they're in virtual school, you can't work as much. And, there are so many factors that go into owning a business that you're the ringleader. So when everything starts to crumble or things go wrong, it's you handle it. And so you do have to make time to recharge a little bit, even if it's just at night. Kids go to bed, sit down and take an hour or two not to think about the business, or even just to think of it in a less scary way, or a way that doesn't stress you out as much. Yeah, I have all these things to do, but if I give myself some time to relax a little bit, I'll be able to get those things done easier and with better, focus, I guess. And if you don't take care of yourself, I feel like that's that's like the oil check in the car. You have to have self-care. You have to. I mean, I'm a big fan of therapy. I think every business owner should be in therapy. You need it.
Yes.
That's real.
Thank you.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up here. First of all, I wanted to thank both of our guests because this actually, I thought the questions were going to go longer than the Q&A, not almost the other way around. So I really appreciate the folks that asked questions, because it also gave me a lot of good ideas for the next time we do a Being My Own Boss event. I can borrow some of these questions going into that as well. But just to plug both of your shops, if you want to mention where you're located in case anybody missed it at the beginning, and if you have websites and all that fun stuff that you want to plug as well.
Sure. Well, I'm from World of Mirth in Carytown. We're at 3005 West Cary Street. You can find us on anything social at World of Mirth. We do have an online store as well, which is worldofmirth.com. And you can call us too. People do that every now and then.
I am the owner of Black Rabbit. So it's 17 North Belmont. We're right next to Belmont Butchery. We just assumed the space that Nine Roses was next door. So we're going to expand the shop and have 2 spaces connected. And it's just an all-girl shop. We just love to do tattoos and we like to make people feel good. So if you want a tattoo, please come see me.
I'll be doing a drawing for each of the gift certificates that you all were kind enough to donate. And what I'll do is I'll just reach out to you with the winners' names to each of you, just so you know when they come in, since there won't be a way for me to actually get them a gift certificate in person. So again, thank you to all the attendees, and look for events like this every month. I want to keep bringing in small businesses throughout the school year for each of our different heritage months. So be sure to keep an eye on our website and all of our social media. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.